Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom. Welcome to day 65 of our Supersize. I'm going to move this down a little bit. Supersize Your Business Annual Challenge. 65 days already. Over 2 months. Crazy, right? The years fly by. Actually, I believe the older we get, the faster the years fly by. Well, today we're talking about money mindset. Why? Because your money mindset as an individual creates your financial wealth, money, and your money reality, how money shows up in your life. Guess what? It does the same thing in our businesses. Our money mindset bleeds over into our business. And guess what? Here's the interesting, kind of scary part. So does everybody else in your organizations. If you have a sales team and one or two people on that sales team have a scarcity or a money block or a money mindset issue or a false belief about money, and they think it's hard, guess what? Look at their results compared to the other salespeople. The salespeople that think it's really, really hard to make money, or that only greedy people have money, or that rich people are somehow evil, if they have that underlying belief, might be something from their childhood, that's where most of our beliefs come from, they will perform poorly in that function, in the job function. And this is actually true of everywhere in our organization, but we're just talking about our money mindset and our financial wealth mindset right now. We all have like this thermostat within us that is, this is the amount of money I'm comfortable making with. I ran into that ceiling as I was building and growing and supersizing my businesses over the decades. It's been decades now. And I would get to a certain point, I'd be feeling comfortable, and then I would start to do things to undermine that and get back down to what I believed subconsciously, I didn't believe it consciously, was my set point. So for example, I remember this, the first time it happened was $20,000 months were my comfort zone. If I had $20,000 in the bank account, I knew we could cover all of our operating expenses. We could cover payroll. We could do all these things because we were tiny back then, and I'd be fine. But heaven forbid, should we have a $30,000 or a $40,000 or a $50,000 month? Because that threw me into a tizzy. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think we can handle this. And I would do things to sabotage and undermine that. And I realized, lo and behold, I was indeed the bottleneck of my business with respect to this, and I needed to deal with it. And so I did in many of the ways that I will tell you here and share here. I realized that what I was thinking and what I believed about anything not only impacted me, but it impacted my business or my businesses and even my corporate career as well. If I believed that I could do something, I absolutely positively would figure out a way to do it. But if I had an inkling that I couldn't, or that it wasn't possible, or it wasn't possible for me, because if anybody's ever done it before, it's absolutely positively possible for you. If you want to make $1 billion, look at how many billionaires there are right now. If you want to make $1 million, oh my gosh, look at how many millionaires there are right now, and all of the different ways they built $1 million business, right? It's really hard to say I can't about anything anymore. Maybe I can say I won't, I don't want to, I don't think it's for me, but it's pretty hard to say, oh, I can't do this, because we absolutely can. So what do we do about this? When I realized this, I remember thinking, this is a big deal. If everybody in the organization has the ability to impact the organization's results, it means I need to make sure we are raising the level of everybody in the organization all the time. I think it's part of why I am such an avid believer and proponent for continuous improvement, not only for our organization, but for everybody in the organization. And if that means that they get too big for the job they're doing or too big for our organization and they move on to something better, we all cheer them on and we wish them well. And sometimes we stay in touch even. So what is the best way to deal with and handle when we know these things come up? One of the things I like to do is actually have a leadership meeting on this topic, and we sit and we do this exercise. We write down all the beliefs we can think about. Usually I set a timer and it's like 5 to 10 minutes. All the beliefs we have about money or have heard about money, or we think that we could suspiciously have still from our childhood about money, we write them all down. We don't share them necessarily with other people, but what's fun to do sometimes is we'll actually make a big wall chart and we'll write down the most common beliefs, and everybody that has that will just put a hatch mark by it. And it's amazing to see how many of these beliefs we have in common. You know, rich people are greedy. You have to do evil things to be rich. You have to sell out to whatever in order to supersize and grow your business. It's amazing how often we find that as humans, we have similar beliefs. They might not be exactly the same. We might not use the exact same words, but bottom line is they're very similar. Then we take a few minutes and we figure out and we question those beliefs. And we have actually a group discussion on it because it's so much more powerful to understand that we're not alone in thinking this than just trying to fix it on our own. I'm actually in a community on the school platform, which I love, by the way. If you want to get this information in a written form, as well as the video and a tracking sheet for the annual challenge, just hit me up by putting Supersize in the comments below, and I will send you the link to our school community because it's going to be very powerful. And going forward, it's going to be expensive for people to join the annual challenge. Not super expensive. I don't think it's expensive, but some people think it's expensive. You know, they'll pay $8 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks or Caribou or one of the coffee shops, but don't want to spend anything on their own personal growth and development or education or continuous improvement. Why? Because then we got to realize that we're not perfect. Oh my God, really? So we're going to challenge that. And what we do is we'll go around the room and anybody, whether they have that belief or not, can give evidence to challenge that that's not true. The vast majority of our, what I call limiting or false beliefs, come from our childhood. Now, they came from parents that loved us very much. And in my situation, not everybody had loving parents. So if that's not your situation, I'm sorry for that. And we still have the ability to change and heal all of that right now. And I think that that's what we have to keep in mind. If I had a money belief that came up and I locked it in starting at age 5 or 6, and I'm still replaying that false story today at almost 66, that's now become my problem because I have taken that false belief and I've owned it and I've added to it for decades. Guess what? I am the only one that can say, yeah, that's not true. That's definitely not true for me now. Was it even ever true? Probably not. A lot of them, it's amazing. The beliefs that we have locked in that we just think are our identity, that weren't even ours ever. They never belonged to us. We borrowed them from our relatives, our ancestors, our family, our friend group, our old bosses, our peers, whatever. And then we decided that what they said was true for us when it absolutely positively was not, because they only ever saw a little sliver of us. So we're going to question that. And then as soon as we question it and we've broken down all the power it has over us, we're going to replace it with something that does support what it is that we want. So if I'm working with the sales team and they believe that, a couple of them believe that they have to work, 80 to 100 hours a week in order to be successful. They have to do all these things that don't feel comfortable to them in order to be successful. They have to be ruthless and competitive in order to be successful, in order to make money. Some of those false beliefs need to be dealt with, and we will deal with them, and then we replace them with things that are more empowering. Guess what? If we aren't in the flow, even if we're making a lot of money, it's not going to last because, okay, maybe this is just my belief. Maybe it will last, but I believe that it won't last because it's not sustainable. Doing things that don't match up with what feel good to us are not sustainable. That's why we pick a group of people that we really, really, really want to work with and we love to serve. And then every day is fun because we get to offer them things that we know they can use, that we know that they need, that they know they will love and want, because they're going to give them exactly what they want to get out of those products and services. So what are we going to do today? We are going to implement, no, wrong thing. We are going, I'm having a week. We are going to ask ourselves and identify as a business, our business money story. Because guess what? We all have a story that we tell about everything. So today, do it yourself or sit down with a couple of people and do this together. It's actually really fun with a couple of other people, just a small group of people that you trust and that trust you, and just say, okay, we're going to talk about our business money story. What the heck do we think it is? And then chances are all of you will have a slightly different perspective of what the money story actually is. But it's where you find the common ground of things that are limiting the organization that you want to address those first. And think of the biggest one, and maybe you just address that one today. But ask yourself why and where that came from. I think a lot of businesses I work with have this around competition and about not being good enough or not being unique enough to stand out among the competition. We got to remember, we're not for everybody. We're only for a little sliver of the people that we're here to serve. There are 8 billion people on this planet. There's plenty of business to go around for absolutely everybody, no matter what business you're in. So pick one and approach it with an abundance mindset, and I guarantee you'll get better results than if you're approaching it with a scarcity mindset. There is plenty of pie to go around for everybody. The pie is infinite. The pie is not limited. So what we're going to do after that, we're going to share in the comments below the one belief the one block or belief or negative thought about money and about wealth and about success. I guess success to me is money and wealth, but whatever that is, the one you identify that's the biggest, what are you going to let go of? And then what are you replacing it with? Because I think that's where we really learn and share with one another. All right. Any questions about this? I had reflective questions, but they're in the school group for the day's challenge. If you want to look at those, I always talk too much on some of these topics, and I know I have to cut something else. I'm not going to ask you a bunch of questions. They're similar every month. What would my life be like if I had an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset? Yada, yada, yada. All right. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, have an awesome day. And I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.